which is called as a Bourne shell. There are different types of shell programs, like Bourne shell, which is defined with a SH, or Born Again shell. Bash, this is called bash. We are using bash, G shell, and so on. So many types of shells, shell scripts or shell programs were there. Syntax difference will be there. The mostly used ones with the latest syntax is bash scripting, right? You may call it shell scripting or bash scripting. Bash is the program which executes your shell programs. And so you can create a file with extension .sh and execute it. And every shell programs begins with a line called shebang line. Shebang line means hash exclamatory. Hash exclamatory. You put the program which is used to execute your program. It's a bin bash. Right? This is called the shebang line. The first one is called, this hash is called as a uh, pound and exclamatory, right? This exclamatory is called as sharp, and hence it's called a shebang. This is mandatory so that it identifies as a shell scripting, right? Let me show you a simple script. Here, let me create a script file. Let's say sample.sh. Okay, it ends with an extension sh, and it starts with a shebang line. Hash exclamatory, and this is called bin bash. And yeah, so now it begins with, let's say, some simple echo command. Echo command is like a print command, right? This is the sample script. Okay, simple echo command. Okay, now to execute this, how do you run this? You may call it as bash, right? So it runs the commands, whatever you place. So you may put multiple commands there, multiple Linux commands, and you can call the or execute the file. This is the very basic way of how you call a shell script. You can also run it as an executable. ls-lc, there are no executable permissions. I can run this as an executable, but you need to provide executable permissions for it using chmod. Give executable permissions for the user. Now, if you see, yes, you can see executable permissions, and if you have executable permissions, you can directly call this way, right? /sample.sh. That's where you make it as an executable. exe files can be executed this way. So any executable, you can execute directly this way. So if you want to execute this, that's where you provide execute permissions. Okay. Now let's go to our script and let's add few more things. And so shell scripting is very simple, and you can understand majority of it. At times it may be complex, and the scripts you write may not be understood by others, or else there are the where you need to write from the scratch. Earlier, they used to use these shell scripts to configure the infrastructure, everything. Shell scripts they have used, but now they were good configuration management tools. So now shell scripts are limited, or they have limited usage now, but better you have some idea on how they were used, because still projects are using it. Not every project is using it. Some projects might be using it. Okay. So for simple automation. Now, let's suppose I just want to store some value. Okay. Like, let's say I just want to store some value called 5. How do you do that? Like you can put x equal to 5, right? In mathematics also we used to do that, x equal to 5. X is a variable or a container or a holder to hold some value, right? Similarly, you can also define here and assign some value called 4 or whatever. X doesn't make any sense. You can give some proper name. I'm giving it as file name. I want to store some file name called config.yaml, right? So that's a called file name is a variable. and I want to print that file name using file, that file name. How do you refer that? Any variable in shell scripting will be referred with a dollar. Okay, that's all. Let's save this and let's call this, right? See, using the file config.yml to configure, do you see that that is replaced with the value you have? You may be asking, what is the point in it? You can directly write the variable or file name here itself. The value file name maybe keep on changing, and I want to pass that value during the runtime. Means this file name maybe keep on changing, and whenever I run the script, I may be sending a different value. Right? Okay. So I will also see how to pass a value. That's how you can refer to the shell scripting. And yeah, that's how you can refer to any variable. Let me define one more variable. Let's go ahead here. Let me define another variable called, okay, let me put here itself, config files. Okay, and I want to get the config files from a particular directory. So you put a dollar ls config. Right, so that whatever ls config means, it will list the files and folders of that config folder. Whatever there, okay, will be listed here, and you are assigning that to another variable called config files. Now I just want to print it. We are learning basics here. We'll be using this in our pipeline as we progress, okay? So I want to print this, so refer this variable. Right? Understood the script? Everyone, good? Are we good?
Yeah.
Now let me run this. See, it says ls cannot access config directory. No such file or directory, because see here, this file or directory should be present, right? This should be present. Config directory should be present. If it is not there, it will give you error. If it is present, fine, it will list the files. But if it is not there, it may throw you an error. So what I want is, I just want to do this if a directory is there. If a directory is not there, maybe I want to create a directory. So how to handle that check? How can we validate that if a directory is present or not? Through something called if conditional statements. And there are something called file operators. Minus D, the folder name, config. Minus D means it will check if the folder is present. If the folder is not present, okay, it will create it. So if it is present, reading the config directory if the folder is present. And then I would like to do this. Okay. If it is not there, that comes under else block, if else conditions. Else, if it is not there, I would like to print it as config directory not found. Right? Create a directory called config. Right? If it is not there, create a directory and then list it. And L if block is closed with if L, fi. So what are we doing here? See, if conditional statements means you have a choice. Okay, if the folder is present, it will execute this. If it is not present, it's going to execute this. Always either this block or this block will execute, not both. Either this block or this block will execute, not both of them. Okay, so Yeah. Also here we can do one more thing. After creating directory, I would like to create a file in this. Let's say file2.txt. Let me put here touch. Okay, let this be first. Let us create a folder. Right? Good now. Any questions? Is the script clear?
Where this will create in present working directory where we are running the
Wherever
script.
you are running the script, it will create there. Or else you can give a path here. I did not give any path. I just gave config means in whichever directory you are running, it will. If you want to do it in a separate directory, give here entire path where it should create.
Okay. What we have done here, actually I joined late.
We are writing shell script to see the folder present or not and then create it.
You are given if statement. If echo we are printing the config directory. Can you explain this for 1 minute?
We are trying to create a folder. If the folder is, we are minus d, this means we are checking if folder is present. If it is present, it will go and get the content of it. If the folder is not present, it's creating the directory and then get the content of it. If
Okay.
conditional statement.
Good.
See, reading the config directory. Okay, because the folder is present where it went. 1 minute. Reading the config directory. And what did it do? 1 second. Config directory is created. Do you see that? Means it went into the, okay. See, this is the first time it considered, right? Config directory not found, using the config.yml to configure. Contents of config. Folder is created or what? Okay, let me do one thing. Let me clean up or minus rf. So we don't have config directory, right? We don't have this directory. Now where it should go? As the directory is not present, yeah, it should go to this part. It should print config directory not found, create a directory, create a file, and print the contents. This is what it should do. Let us execute. See, that's what it does. Config directory not found. Okay, then it printed this part because there is no echo here. Okay, it printed this part and then contents of config is file2, meaning it has created the directory, it has created this file and it was printing it. Yeah, do you see that? Yes? Understood the script, everyone, on the flow? If you run it for the second time, then it will go to this if block because folder is already there. See, reading the config directory and it has taken this content and printing it again. Am I clear with this part?
Yeah.
Everyone, can I expect response from everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So what are the different types of variables in shell scripting? Because you are assigning the ls, the particular directory into a variable, right? And so is there any limitation on storing a number of
you
files?
don't define the data types before, okay? You can just directly use it and it will be considered like a string part.
Okay.
Let's define another variable here called user group something like that. User group is, let's say, some X. And here I'm writing again if conditional statements, but a bit different. Here you can write if conditional statement, like here we have only two cases, right? What if you have multiple conditions or multiple cases? Yeah. So that's where comes this. Yeah, if this is equal to some user group called admin. Okay, then they may be given different permissions. Okay, but here I'm not adding permissions. I'm just trying to write some echo command. They can configure the server, maybe regular users. Okay, and I have another condition, else if, in short, they are called elif. If user group is, let's say, root, then if they are anyone else out of this admin group and root, they have no permissions, right? Okay, so that's how you can add multiple conditions. This is if else if block, right? So here I have given user group as some X. So what should it print? What will this print now?
No,
No
No
permission.
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 Because this is not admin or this is not anything else. So see, no permissions to configure, right? Here we can do one thing. We are hard coding the values here, right? It doesn't make any sense to do this way because if you write a variable value here itself, yeah, you can directly use it here. Why do you need a variable? This makes more sense when you want to pass these variables from outside. $1 means whenever you are calling the script, the value you pass first will be assigned to this. The value you pass first, meaning I'm calling this and I'm sending Tom. This will be assigned. See, no permissions to configure. Or else let me do one thing. Okay, so that you can also see that. Yeah. Now, right, Tom have no permissions to configure. Let's say he belongs to admin group. See, admin can configure the server, right? Accordingly, I'm passing root. Root can admin the server. Got it? Yeah. That this is called positional parameters, and you are passing arguments when you are calling the script. If you have multiple values, where comes the multiple values? Maybe I want to pass this file name or else the directory name. Let's say we have a directory here, right? I would define something called config directory is $2. And where is this config directory? Wherever I'm writing this folder name, I just want to refer this as a variable. Instead of, it's not always config folder, right? So maybe a different one. Right? Also, wherever you have this. Following what I'm doing, I hard coded the folder name, but folder name maybe keep on changing always. So I would like to refer this with a variable. I'll pass that during the runtime. Even file name also you can pass during runtime. Here I have added, you may use $3, right? Here also. Okay. Hmm. Have we replaced everywhere? Config directory. Okay, here also. Okay, let's see. So this the value you should pass as a second one. I'm passing root and the folder name is, let's say, my directory. That will be assigned to the config folder. So see, it says my directory not found. So it printed this. So because it's not found, it has created a directory file too, and everything is good. Understood?
Yes.
This one, ls config directory, because we are fetching the content of this is going to be assigned again as a variable. You don't want to assign this as a variable, right? If I don't put here dollar, config files will be assigned with ls this part. Do you need that or do you need a content of it? So dollar before it. Is this your question? Movia. Understood? If you don't put here, ls config directory will be assigned into this one. That I don't need it. I want the content of it. So dollar. Like this, you may define any number of values. These are called positional parameters. See, here I'm showing you with a simple or a sample scripts. Okay, we are going to do a similar kind of thing in the pipeline. We'll call some shell script in our pipeline for different purposes. Okay, we have got different scenarios where you use the shell script for various purposes. Initially, before learning Docker, we shall install some tools with shell scripting. And later on, again, once Docker, everything is containerized, Ansible script, to call Ansible script and to pass some values to Ansible script, we'll be using it. Okay, we have different scenarios. Okay, we'll also go through them as we go by. Because we are doing shell script, it's not that we learn those scenarios. Those scenarios will run the real scenarios with the flow. Okay, and let me show you one more thing. Suppose you want to pass some user input. That is also possible. Reading user input. Read the value. Please enter your password. Let's say user password. Okay, that's a value. And let's say I want to print it. Thanks for your name. Here I'm going to define it. User name. Here also the same variable. User prompt means it will wait for your input. Let's say name, right? Let's see how this works. Run the script. See, please enter your name. And thanks for your name. And printing the name. That's called user input, or this is possible with the read command. The instruction we used is read. See, shell scripting is simple, and again, don't expect it to master in a day, in one night, in a day. You will not master it. Okay, this needs again regular practice. Means as you keep on using, you get used to it. You need not learn the complete shell scripting beforehand, before you go to DevOps. It's not mandatory. Not that every project is using it. Okay, in some old project we have used it, but later then in the last two companies we haven't used shell scripting at all. We haven't used. So it's not mandatory that you need to learn this shell scripting. Basic understanding of shell scripting is good to have. Some projects uses it, some projects not. So it's not mandatory you should learn shell scripting. Okay, like I said, last two projects we haven't used shell scripting at all. So it's not mandatory. Yeah, I have so many questions saying that, okay, in the job description, they're asking shell scripting. Shell scripting is a good to have skill. It's not a mandatory. Okay, and another thing is there might be some projects where they use shell scripting rigorously. Maybe there might be projects as well. Like I told you, right, not that every job description fits us, not that every role fits us. So choose read the job description and understand the role. But for DevOps, this is not mandatory. This is just a good to have skill. Okay. So this is basic shell scripting. We will implement it as we go by. Before that, I would like to show you something.
So the read command, right? Read minus P. What it means? Minus P?
Input.
Okay. So and what are the other
Like
options
it
for
was
read?
1 second. Minus P means it want to print this, right? This one. It
Okay.
whatever it want to print.
Okay.
Hmm.
And what are the other options for the read command?
You might be having other options. You can also check them. I'll show
Okay.
you. Give me a second. Okay. File operators. I'll show you one after the other. See here, there are so many tutorials over the internet to learn shell scripting. Like I told you, right? Every day you spend some 10 minutes for Linux. For Linux commands, 5 minutes, shell scripting, 5 minutes. Okay, you can dedicate that way and you don't need to learn all of this. Okay, but here there's a good reference to refer whenever you need something. And I have used -d, right? That's one of the file operators. See, checks if a file is a directory. If else, then the condition becomes true. This is what I have used, right? Similarly, if you want to check something else, say check if the file is writable or not. If else, the condition is true. How do you check whether it is writable or not? This is how. So there were so many operators, so many things. No one, not only me, no one will remember these, or you don't need to remember. You don't need to. Okay, it's not required also. Then how do you know? This is how you will refer. Okay, examples were there. Okay, explanation is there. This is how you refer. As much as experience, even though you're an experienced person, particularly Linux, this is how you do. If you need anything, you will Google it and use it, but you will not just learn or mug up all of this. So here are those operators. Similarly, whatever we have seen, read input, everything will have different parameters might be there. Help page is there, man page. Okay, you can do $man and the command. Let's say you want to see more options on any command. Okay, man read. See, it will show you all of that. See, I'm using minus P, right? Minus P option prints the list of alias in the form of alias name. Similarly, you have so many options. Do you see that? Minus L, minus P, display readline function name and binds in such a way that it can be reread. So, readline function, you have, I'm sorry, you have so many options here, right? You can read out them and use it. Any command, manual page will help you this way. Making sense?
Yeah.
Also, let's say I want to see echo, a simple echo. See, you still have it. Again, you have so many options. Minus N, minus E, right? N means do not output the trailing new line. Enable interpretation of backslash. You don't need to memorize them. Use the man page and use it. Right? So, very simple this way. You can also refer this page. Okay, this tutorials, good tutorials to see anything using variables. Okay, if you want to understand how variables are defining a variable. See, so many examples like we have seen. How do you access the variable or refer the variable with the dollar sign? All the read over material is here. Okay, if you want to unset the variable also. Actually, like I told you, right, you don't need to memorize them. Suppose you need something, you Google it and you do. That's how we use shell scripting. Nowadays, it's much more better with the chat GPT. You can ask anything. Let's say shell script to create a directory and a file in it. You will also see the explanation of it. See here that this is what we did, minus D. Okay, but here they have used in a reverse. Exclamatory mark means not. Means if it's not a directory, if it is not there, then they were creating. If it is there, they were printing it. We did in a reverse. We took a positive condition here. So anything. Yeah. Minus C, if already exists, if the file already exists, file name, this is not directory, minus C. If the file already exists, they were using exclamatory minus C means opposite of it, negative of it. Means if it is not present, create it, print it, if it is there. So you have everything in here, explanation, okay, providing executable permissions for the script and running it. This is what we did, right? So you have ChatGPT now, a good assistant for you, with which you can develop your scripts as well as you can understand. But you need to know what to do, how to do. You need to have an idea. Exact syntaxes, those you can get from here. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
See, everything is here. You just copy from here and use it. Of course, you modify with your folder names, with your variables. As we progress, you also have the groovy pipelines where you can refer the script from ChatGPT. It could be a reference. It could be like an assistant, but you have zero knowledge. You can't use Chat because firstly, you should know what I should use, what you have to use, right? So that's how it can be used for reference. See, whatever I did, like it has given executable permissions, I'm running this. Explanation also there. During your learning, okay, wherever you're stuck up or wherever you have questions, you can use this as your first help, right? Many companies allows this. Now we have ChatGPT. You can use this in case if you are not, you have Google as well. But this is the best way. Almost every company nowadays is uh, allowing this ChatGPT. Okay, these are the
This is
additional
this is
differences.
AI tool, right, Preeti?
Correct,
ChatGPT.
correct.
And this is a widely used or most popular now.
See, like I
Uh,
already said, it's just a helping hand, a reference like Google.
yeah,
It's
yeah. So
not this
because
is the
when ChatGPT came, people used to tell that
hmm.
Google will go off, ChatGPT will take over like that.
It will not go off because Google has its own area, right? Here, ChatGPT will not go with external links, external searches. There you have to go with the Google only. It will not replace it as of now, at least. But yeah, for particularly for our DevOps, as a help, you can use it. It's not that officially companies are announcing to use it. It's not official. Like Google is also not official. Companies don't say you Google and do this. Same thing with ChatGPT. It's not officially allowed by all companies. Companies are giving this and asking you to use it. No, this is allowed in the sense we can open this ChatGPT in our laptops. Many office laptops we have ChatGPT allowed, like Google. Okay. So I just want to show you so that you don't panic for writing line by line. This syntax, okay, you don't need to memorize it. For that matter, no one will, or else majority of them will not remember this syntax. You don't need to do it. As you keep on using it, you get used to it. Otherwise, you have so many references for it. You have to first, but you have to understand the uses. You have to understand how to do it. That you have to do. Okay. So that is about the basic shell scripting. Like I said, this is sample. Okay, we will see the real use cases once we integrate them in the pipeline. This is enough to good to start with. Okay, our shell script again takes many folds as we progress. We introduce many other things, but this is enough to get started. Okay, and any more questions in this part?
Hello, Preeti.
Yes.
Yeah, Deepa here.
Hi, Deepa.
Yeah. Preeti, one thing, like as I said, it's not mandatory to know those commands and all.
Mm.
Uh, like in Linux as well as in shell script, I would like to know some important topics that it's good to cover so that we can go easily with the flow as and when you proceed. Any important topics?
I will not say important topics, but
Uh,
mandatory topics. Okay,
yeah.
important topics, it depends on the project. But
Okay.
mandatory things are general things like working with the file system, navigating with
Mm,
the files and folders, which we discussed. We
mm,
started shell scripting on Friday, I think. I mean, sorry, Linux on Friday, correct?
correct. Huh?
So yeah, like working with the files and folders, working with
Mm,
basically file. That's very basic, which everyone should know when you are given a server. That's how
mm,
you log in and do the things. So those are definitely needed. And
mm,
then the permissions, like we did, whatever topics we have done, those are
mm,
mandatory. Mandatory in the sense, those basics you should have. That's good to
mm,
have if you are on Linux. So those are
mm.
the things we covered. Whatever things we have covered, learn
Mm.
them for sure. Okay, learn
Okay.
that much is enough. Again,
Mm,
how much depth you should know, how much extensively you should know shell scripting, like I
mm,
already mentioned, it depends on the project and it's not mandatory. Like I said, certain projects uses it. Maybe there might be some projects which uses extensively, but let's suppose, okay, certain projects are using extensively shell scripting. Okay, but you are looking for a DevOps position, you have learned these tools, you have mastered Docker, you have mastered others, but not shell scripting, then that particular job description is not for you. Like I said, it's not that all job description suits everyone. Okay,
yeah.
that might need a person with a Linux background, Linux administration
Mm,
background, right?
okay.
So whoever have Linux administration background, they can go for it. So they have a lot of shell scripting, lot of things, mostly on Linux part rather than on the DevOps tools. But
Okay.
they still say that's a DevOps, but they are looking means that role needs Linux background. So it's not for us.
Mm,
Like I
okay.
said, right, in our last two companies, we haven't used shell scripting as a DevOps person. In the previous company, we used to certain extent, not extensively. But yeah, like I said, in this, there were so many projects, huge number of numerous projects are there. Okay, they have different requirements and all. There might be few which needs those Linux stuff. That needs definitely Linux background. That's not for us.
Mm,
Even I don't prefer that. It's again personal choice. If you are interested into it, it's up to you. Uh,
mhm. Okay. Okay.
Whatever
Thanks.
we have learned here, you learn that
Mhm.
much. And as we progress, we are going to learn more Linux scripting and all, I mean, shell scripting. And that is good to go for you.
Yeah. Fine, Preeti. Thank you.
All right. Before we go to anything else, I would like to show you another interesting concept called SH. This is again important, okay, which everyone should know. SSH, secure shell. Secure shell. What is the secure shell? This is a protocol used to connect to any remote machines. Means, let's say there might be a Jenkins server. Okay, a Linux server. It might be on-prem, it might be on your AWS, it might be on private cloud or public cloud, whatever it is. Okay, there might be a Linux server, you want to connect to it. Okay, you want to connect to it. So how do you connect? That's where you use the secure shell Linux protocol to connect to any remote machines and do some tasks on those remote machines. Let's suppose, okay, again, this SSH protocol or SSH connection can be done in two ways. It could be password connection, means password based, or key based, or passwordless. What is this password based? Password based means like you will have to put a username, a kind password, right? Same way you have a password to connect. Key based means it will generate a key using some algorithms like RSA algorithm and so on. Okay, this key is alphanumeric and it is less vulnerable for thefts and attacks, isn't it? Password is easy to memorize or share with anyone. It is less, it's more vulnerable for attacks. But that's not the case with key-based authentication. So key-based authentication or password-based, passwordless authentication, this is the one which is very widely used. Okay, this is how we use it. Right? And now here also we'll use this key-based authentication. How that happens again? Let's suppose this is my laptop. Okay, this is called this machine, this personal machine or office laptop. This is called SH client. Okay, and you want to connect to a remote server. Okay, which is on some uh, private cloud or your own data center, wherever it is, you want to connect to this. Okay, this is called as a remote server, or okay, let's say remote server you want to connect. So how do you open this connection? The actual general thing is you will generate an SSH key pair here. What are the commands, how to generate, we will learn, okay? First, understand the concept. We'll generate a key pair. Key pair will have public key and a private key. That's called a key pair combination. A private key and the public key. Okay, now you will keep the private key here. Private key should be very secure. You will keep the private key with you and copy the public key to whichever machine you want to connect. So, as you are having the matching private key, you can connect from your laptop to this machine. You can connect to this. Okay, via SSH. You can connect to this. This is one way. Now let's suppose you want to connect to another remote machine. You can use the same public key here. You put the same public key. The matching private key is present in my laptop. So I can connect to this machine also using the same key pair. But generally what we do is for each machine, we will generate another key pair. Let's say key pair B. Okay, you put public key of B here and you have private key of B server here, means you can connect. Am I making sense? Means for every machine you will generate a key pair, you will keep the private key and you put the corresponding key there. So if it is having matching private key, means you can connect. Let's suppose I'm connecting from my laptop one. I want to connect from another laptop. Okay, let's say I want to connect from another machine. So here you can keep this private key of both A and B machines. Okay, yeah, you can connect from here also. But private key should not be shared. Okay, it should be secure. But this is the logic and the concept. right? And we use some SSH clients like Git Bash is an SSH client, means the interface through which you can connect this. Git Bash, Putty, or your terminal on Mac, all these works like SSH clients, an interface to allow you to connect to remote machines. This is the basic concept. Okay. So to connect to any machine, you generate a key pair, you keep the public key, you put the private key there. If you are having matching private key means you can connect to it. This private key is like a lock. For your home, you put a lock, right? And this private key is like a key. Okay, you can connect to the lock, a matching lock. Am I clear? Simple. Now don't get confused. This is a simple concept, but this is very important concept because this is the concept we use throughout. Like to any server as such based authentication is the one we use most widely. Okay, this is how we connect to any machine. So you should understand this thoroughly. Now, this is AWS server. This is my laptop. How are we connecting? We are already connecting to AWS machine, right? So how is this SSH used? Yes, here also the same SSH concept is used, but in a different way. How different it is? How differently we are using? Here it is, the concept is same, but it is happening a different way. Means whenever you create an EC2 instance, you are creating a key pair. Do you remember it will ask you, do you want to use a key pair, right? And it will
Yes.
generate a key pair and it will allow you to download that PEM file. Do you remember?
Yeah.
That PEM file you are downloading into your laptop is nothing but the private key. Means what it is doing? It is keeping the public key and it is giving you the private key. Again, the same concept, but doing it in a reverse way, in a different way. You are not generating key pair and keeping private key and giving the public key to the machine. Rather, the machine is generating a key pair and giving you the private key. That's a PEM file you can download only once. That's what I said. You should save it securely. Only when you have that PEM file, you can connect. Correct?
Yeah.
Am I correct? Everyone understood this concept?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
the same is happening, but a bit differently, that's all. So for another, let's say you create another EC2 instance tomorrow. You may actual practices, you have to generate a new key pair, use the corresponding private key. But yeah, in my lab, I am just using the same. You can use different one. It's up to you. It's for some machines, when we come to multiple machines like Ansible hosts and servers, there we may use different keys. But this is the concept. And you can use any SSH clients. Like I told you, Git Bash is an SSH client. Okay, Putty. Okay, you can use Mobax term. Or else you can use terminal in Windows. All these works like SSH clients. Yeah.
WinSCP also works, right? WinSCP.
Hmm?
WinSCP.
Windows is WinRM. WinSCP is to copy, right? WinRM, Windows Remote Manager.
Yeah, correct.
Hmm. So you can use Git Bash. Okay, use this PEM file and connect.
So when we creating the new EC2 instance, right? So if you use the same key, right? So we can so while using SSH client, right? We can use the same we need to copy the SSH client. There is a link, right? Then we can in the Git Bash we can go to the folder where the PEM key is there, and there we can execute that command. No.
Correct.
So
That's
the
how we
same there'll be a same path, right? Then because since you are using the same key.
same path. Same key, right? See, in Git Bash, yes, you are using PEM file. Putty, okay, I'll come to Putty. In terminal, let's say in Mac, on Mac you want to connect, yes, we are using terminal for PEM file. Putty and Mobex term cannot connect with PEM file. It needs a file in a different format, PPK format. Have you anyone tried doing this? PPK format. This
Yeah,
documentation is also that it will not use PEM file. They need PPK. Means what you will do, you will convert this PEM file into PPK file. Different format, that's all. It is a private key in a putty private key format, not a PEM format. What you have to do, let's say you want to use putty, but you have downloaded PEM file. You can convert this PEM file into PPK file using puttygen. It will generate a PPK file corresponding to PEM file. You can connect it. But the format is different, concept is same. If anyone have used putty or mobextrum, you have to convert that to PPK. Or else what you can do, whenever you are creating EC2 instance, it will ask you, do you want a PEM format or PPK format? I always use PEM because I use git bash or I use terminal. Or else if I download PPK, I can convert and generate if I download PEM file, I can convert it to PPK and use it for putty mobextrum. So all the ways I can use it. So I always prefer PEM file. Let's suppose you don't want to use git bash terminal, you only want to use putty. Then you can directly download PPK also whenever you are creating keypad. Understood what I'm saying? You can also say no also. No also can be an answer.
Preeti, this public key, where they upload actually, in the which path in the Linux server? Do you know?
That is not visible, that's not available for us.
Okay.
Okay, that
I think,
happens at the back end.
yeah.
We don't have access to them. In the SSH folder, you can see certain things, but not the exact key file.
Prithvi, SFTP is also used for this.
Huh?
SFTP, Secure File Transfer Protocol.
That's a file transfer protocol
Okay.
where you can transfer the files from remote. But when you have SSH, you can also do it through the commands. That's through you have some wizard through which you will open it, right?
See, in organization where they used to keep the PPK files,
Just a second, actually, my mention is hanging up. Tell me.
in organization,
Mm,
if we join in the middle of the project,
mm.
how they manage the PPK key files if they want to share to humans.
They are secured files. Okay, you may be having access to the tokens kind of. Okay, you will be given the steps to connect and all. You will not be directly given the keys kind of. They don't share the keys. Okay, there'll be a way you can connect from a particular wizard. Okay, you will have some terminals from where you can connect. The terminal is already configured with those path of the script and all. See, I'm just showing here. Whenever I think you might have noticed it. See, create a new key pair. See, it is asking you which format. I always use this because I can use it for git bash. I can use it for terminal. Okay, later if I want to connect from putty, I can also convert it to PPK and use for putty. But see here, if you want only for putty, for use with putty, you can also download it straight away. But I prefer this because I can later convert this as well and use it for putty, or for if it is git bash, I can use PEM and so on. Okay.
So, Preeti, is there any vault available in AWS to store or secure these keys? In Azure, there is a key vault, right? Azure key vault. Similar to that, is there
In
anything in
AWS,
AWS?
you have those vaults and all, those are paid services. You have a password storage manager kind of. Yes, you have
Oh,
certain services.
okay.
So, okay, coming back, now that we learned Linux and all, we learned how to install packages. Yesterday we have installed HTTPD and Tomcat, right? So, can we install Jenkins as well now? So we are all set to start with Jenkins. As we have got Linux configured, we know how to install packages. And again, Jenkins works on Linux and Windows as well. right? On Mac also, you can directly install Jenkins, but from here onwards, we'll be using Linux environments for any tool, because as we progress, we need Linux definitely. So we'll install Jenkins also on the same Linux server, you can use it. Okay, but before that, we have to understand a few things about continuous integration, and then we'll get started. We can start that tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, we shall talk about continuous integration, then we'll install Jenkins and we'll see the basic job creation in Jenkins. Meanwhile, please complete all the hands-on. Install the tools also for sure. I want you to install HTTPD and Tomcat. Have anyone completed that part?
Yeah,
I
Preeti, I
have
installed Tomcat and HTTP.
And you have deployed that WAR file and some static index file, right?
No, war file I didn't do. I'll do it today.
Yeah, please do that, because as we progress, we are going to automate that part. So to automate that, you need to know the actual thing, how we are doing it manually. So everyone do the Tomcat thing mandatorily. HTTPD also.
I have done
Deploy
it
and
in
also access the endpoint from the browser. You need to have good understanding on what we discussed. Tell me, please.
I have done it and terminate the instance. It
Hmm?
will be charged, right? If I keep like that. Instance.
Don't keep it. Once you are done, stop it. Go here,
Stop.
stop the instance. Don't keep it running.
I have terminated.
Terminated means it will be deleted. Tomorrow again you have to recreate the whole thing. So stop it and tomorrow you can start it.
If I stop, it will not be chargeable, right?
Yes, it will not.
Ma'am, the two used cases of SSH which you have explained just now, ma'am, I don't think a major difference in them. I mean, a EC2 instance will be having the public key and we will be uploading the private key using the SSH client, right? The second use case.
Second use case.
Just now you explained, right?
The PPK and PEM.
Yeah, the PPK and PEM. The first one you told.
Both are same. Only the private key format you downloaded. Format is different. That's all. That's what I was saying. Both are same. PPK or PEM, both are same. Which format you want to download? That's all. Concept doesn't change. Only the format. And why the format? Like I told you, some of the SSH clients like Git Bash, Terminal, all of this use PEM file. Whereas Putty needs PPK format. Format is different. Both are private key only.
No, before that, ma'am, before that, one more use case you know showed about the SSH. I'm asking on that.
Which one?
If you could show that working slide.
You are talking about EC2 connection? EC2 instance, or you're talking about the scenario with the AWS?
I'm talking about the SSH connection, ma'am.
SSH connection to AWS instance, right?
Not to the AWS instance. Before AWS instance, you showed one more this thing, the connecting with the remote servers.
So what is your question? Because I don't have those drawings, I erased them. So yeah, I got it. The first thing we were talking about from our local machine to a remote server, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
ma'am, I think I don't see a major difference in them. I mean, in that case, in EC2 we will be having the predefined key generations wherein the public key is kept in the EC2 instance and we will use the private key. But here you're telling that we need to generate it on our own. The first one, the first case.
Correct. If you are connecting to any remote machine, we generate a key pair, we keep the private key, you copy that public key to whatever machine you want to connect, and you will connect to any machine. That's how you'll open an SSH connection to any remote server. Like that, let's say I want to connect to AWS. Actually, these are the steps I have to do. But AWS instance, whenever you are creating, is doing these steps for me. It is generating a key pair. It is doing in the reverse, conceptually same. I told that only. Conceptually, it is same. It is doing in the reverse way. Did we generate a key pair? Or AWS instance is generating, right? That's happening in the reverse way, I told. Concept is same. You are not generating a key pair from your client. Okay, your server is creating key pair. It is giving you the private key and it's keeping the public key. The way it happens is different.
Okay. In the first case, we will be generating the key pair from the client.
From our local machine, means from whichever machine you want to connect. We will also see that, okay? I'll also show you that connection also. We'll take two EC2 instances. I'll open an SH connection from machine 1 to machine 2. So you will generate a key pair. I'll also show you how to use the existing key and connect also, I'll show you. But yeah, as of now, these are the two things. One is if you want to connect to any machine, you generate a key pair, keep the private key, give the public key to that machine. You can connect. When you want to connect to AWS, whenever you are creating instance, it is generating a key pair. I don't have to. And it is giving me the private key. It's keeping the public key. So I can connect to it.
Right. Yeah, got it, ma. This is pretty much clear now. Yeah.
All right. All right, then we shall take up from here tomorrow. Tomorrow we shall get into the continuous integration concepts with Jenkins. Before that, do the complete hands-on and we'll continue from here. Thanks everyone. Have a good day. See you all.
Thank you all.